Hello folks, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a topic that came out a little bit on my channel during the past videos, and it's a topic that I wanted to touch on and try to speak with you guys about, and try to talk with you guys about it down in the comments and so on. But the question that it came in my mind during those moments where is Lumix actually trying to compete with Sony or the major camera companies like Sony and Canon in this specific moment? So now the big three are Sony, Canon, and Nikon. And Fuji is basically in the fourth place, but Fuji is in his own league doing APS-C flagship cameras, which nobody really does. So they don't have any full frame. They have only medium format, and now there is the cinema medium format coming, which is a really interesting one. And then there is all the other ones. So Lumix is part of all the other ones, so-called other ones. And yeah, so in many comments it has come out that Lumix is kind of losing up from the camera companies and all the other manufacturers. And here is where my question kind of comes, where I don't know if I really think, or I don't think that Lumix is actually trying to compete with the other manufacturers. Just because seeing the release patterns and seeing how the company is working after seeing the podcast from Matthew, it kind of makes sense. I don't think if you haven't seen the podcast, I will put the link down below so you can actually go and watch it. But I don't think that Lumix is actually trying to compete with those camera companies. I think Lumix is trying to create, as they have always done, their own lineup of semi-professional and professional cameras, because look at something like the S1H, right? The S1H is a unique camera, is in its own league. I don't really think that there are many other mirrorless or any mirrorless camera out there at the point where it was released that could actually really compete with the features that that camera had at that time when it was released. And imagine at the price point of this Lumix S5IIX, the features that 2 years ago they basically put it into this camera and the S5II, and they still keep, they're still keeping improving in the camera. They still keep how I can say, with firmware updates, this camera, every time that they basically launch a firmware update, there is something new. Okay, maybe the last firmware update, it let some people down, but they still kind of gave you a hint of what it's coming through the S9, right? So that's the thing. Other manufacturers out there, except from Lumix, don't do that. Instead of releasing a firmware update 1 year or 2 years after for cameras, they release new cameras, that has basically the firmware update that they are supposed to be putting into the camera. They are basically putting it into a newer camera, if you understand what I mean, without me saying other or saying names, right? So that's the thing that make Lumix really interesting or really intriguing. And I'm finding it hard every time that I feel like I want to switch from this camera system, because I don't feel like no other camera system gives you the love and even the firmware updates that this company gives you, because it's just mind-blowing the capabilities that this company are putting into the firmware updates that they launch into the cameras, right? So that's one thing that we all have to sit down and think, that when you are buying into a system like Lumix, you are actually or this is my thought, and this is what I have experienced in my last 4 years shooting with Lumix cameras, right? The feeling that I had, that when you are buying into the Lumix ecosystem, you are buying into a unique, like a standalone system. It's not a system that it's really aiming to compete with other manufacturers, but it's a system that is aiming to compete with just themselves. And that's something that it's just really super good for me, because I know that they are not going to cannibalize their own bodies or their own cameras to save other parts of cameras. Like, they are not going to basically save features, for example, on the S5IIX and the S5 Mark II, because they know that these features are going to come in the S1H Mark II eventually, or in the on the S1R Mark II, for example. If you understand what I mean, right? There are companies out there that rather not put some features in one camera just because they have another camera that have the same features, so they kind of have, oh, this is a Pro, so I cannot have that there. But imagine what they did, for example, with the S9. Yes, I still think that the S9 price point is too high, but imagine the S9, the type of body that it has the same features that this camera has. And okay, this is the S5IIX, so of course it doesn't have the B-roll, the ProRes, and blah blah blah, but it has the same feature that the S5 Mark II has, but it has more that in the future we are going to receive in the S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark II X2. But they imagine that they are not saving anything in that camera for you to be able to use it, right? And that's something that it's so interesting, because other camera companies, as I repeat 100 times in this video, actually do that. So that's the thing. That is that if you are buying into a system like Lumix, it's basically a standalone company. It's a company that it's not probably trying to compete with the others, but it's just trying to compete with themselves and bring the best they can deliver. And the innovation, it's always really mind-blowing, because for me the GH7 was mind-blowing. And imagine having an S1H Mark II that is literally a full-frame version of the GH7. Yeah, maybe some other companies have already went above that, but no other company still gives you 32-bit float internally through an XLR, right? No other company out there, and no other company gives you open gate full frame. No other company does that, And yeah, many people will say, oh, open gate is overrated, open gate is that, open gate is that. But if you use it in the way that I use it, which saves me a lot of time with client work, you will understand that it actually not that overrated. It actually really good, because you can get basically like many frames from just shooting one. You can get vertical and horizontal by just shooting once. And I have had some clients in the past where they were just like, hey, we would like to have both versions, so what do we do? So we shoot 2 times? And I'm like, no, we don't need to. I have a way where we can just shoot once, and we can just repurpose that without needing to like turn the camera in vertical and horizontal. Because many people, or in my case, I work with dancers and theaters, so what they will want to do is that they will use the vertical version of the content on Instagram, TikTok, and so on, but then on their website they want the horizontal one, right? So that's where OpenGate, it's really handy. But obviously everyone has a different use case and everyone has a different way of thinking, so that's be it. But that's what I think. This video is mostly about blubbering, so hopefully you're just you're just sitting down there and just enjoying the blubbering and thinking about what I'm saying. But share your comment down below if you have anything to say about what I just said. And I will say that when it comes to Lumix, and if you are a creator who shoot with Lumix and you are becoming so nervous on waiting so much, I'll just suggest you on just changing maybe camera system, because Lumix takes their time to develop things, but when they actually develop the things, they do great job. And we see it with the GH7, with the GH6, with the S5 Mark II and the Mark IIX. Yes, they might not have the super fast sensor, but basically they are a mini S1H cameras. Think about it. Yeah, guys, so thank you for hearing me blubbering. I'm gonna see you in the next one. Take good care of yourself.